Welcome back to Women on the Front Lines, a March for Science's series featuring amazing women doing incredible things all across the country. Joining me today is our fabulous co-host and brilliant climate justice writer, Mary Annise Hegler. Hello, Mary.
Hey, Rania, how are you?
I'm good. I'm feeling okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much coffee have you had today?
Maybe a little too much.
No such thing. I've only had one, and I'm definitely about to
Yeah,
that.
I've turned into like a pot a day kind of gal, and I was feeling a little guilty about it, but then I remembered that coffee beans, I think, are actually the most antioxidant rich food that we know of. And so I have justified it as drinking all of this coffee for my own wellness. So I don't put cream or sugar or any of those. I just drink it black. So it's okay.
Oh, wow.
Right? It's okay.
Yeah, no, that's totally okay. Also, that's my rationale for eating a ton of chocolate.
Oh, I mean, whatever gets us through. I'm here for it for sure.
Yeah.
Exactly. Science. Justification for all our vices. I'm just kidding. Not really, but kind of.
I'm not.
Speaking of getting through, we obviously here at March for Science talk a lot about the intersectional nature of the work that we do. We talk about science and how it touches every aspect of life, including Mary's chocolate and my coffee addiction. And as you've heard me say a million times, we have to meet people where they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, that's right. Like, not everybody has time to be wading through the latest data set or like the latest study. I know I don't even feel like I have the skill to read a lot of that stuff all the time. And that means we have to get creative with the ways that we communicate. And the barriers of entry are just many.
Yeah, so many. Yeah. You're so right, Mary. And it's really one of the reasons I'm just so excited that we have our next guest joining us. She's the executive director of Amplifier, which is a nonprofit design lab. Y'all probably have seen their work. They create amazing art to help amplify the most pressing movements of our time. Welcome, Cleo Barnett.
Hi, everyone. So good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Hi, Cleo. So thanks so much. Hello. So thank you so much for joining us. Before we dive into your most recent campaign, we would love to hear more from you about Amplifier and the work you do in general, and just how it all came to be.
Yeah. So Amplifier is a nonprofit design lab, and we build media experiments to amplify the most important movements of our time. A lot of people know us from the Women's March, the original Women's March, when we launched the We the People campaign, which is a pretty good example of how we work. So we really came to be because we saw all of these incredible nonprofit movements, grassroots movements all across the country who were so under-resourced, but doing such important work that was so foundational to our health as a community. And so we started a nonprofit organization to create visual art campaigns in order to amplify their voices and bring their messages into popular culture. And so we'll work with different movement leaders, and then we'll design visual art campaigns. And then alongside the visual art campaigns, we'll come up with distribution strategies for how to get that artwork out into public spaces in order to shift culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually, the very first time I got to work with Cleo was in 2017 at the original March for Science March. And I have to tell you, I mean, the work that y'all do is so powerful and incredible and beautiful. And it just kind of cuts to the message. And we're going to show just a few of the amazing pieces that y'all just released. Izzy's going to drop a link into the chats for the entire collection so folks can check it out. But I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about the artists, and definitely would love for you to dive into the messaging here. None of these pieces exactly say vaccine equity, but it's a prevalent message. It's something our colleague, actually, Dr. Lucky Tran, speaks to a lot in his Let's Get Vaccinated series. So Cleo, I would just love for you to dive into some of those things a little bit.
Yeah, so our work is definitely not possible without the incredible artists that we work with. We work with artists all around the world, and we work with everything from really well-established artists to emerging artists. And so we commission artists to kind of synthesize the core messages from any campaign that we're working on. And oftentimes that looks like something that Maria was touching on earlier, where it's taking information that's very complicated, very nuanced, and then kind of streamlining that down into really, really simple messages to be able to cut through the noise. So we always want our artwork to be easily understood within like a second looking at it. But then what you'll see in a lot of our artwork is there's a lot of like nuanced hidden messages the more you kind of look into the symbology around any of the work. And so for the vaccinated campaign, it's been really interesting. We've been working with this group called Project Halo. And they are a collective of scientists and doctors who got together when coronavirus first hit in order to better understand what's happening, to kind of pull the information that's being learned globally, and really to be able to create digestible resources for the public to better understand where we're at. And so, you know, right now we really are in this together. This is something that is impacting all of us. And so we're trying to create messages that debunk any myths that are out there. And really, we're trying to encourage public health and safety for all people everywhere in the world.
So on that note, there's a lot of history of communicating through art and a deep connection between communicating injustice in particular through art. As one of my favorite writers, Tony Cain-Bambera, says, the role of the artist is to make the revolution irresistible. So can you speak to that a little bit? Is that a focus of what y'all do at Amplifier?
Yeah, that's such a huge part of what we do. We really believe that representation matters, and a lot of the messages that we're uplifting have been systematically erased from mainstream media. And so a big part of our work is restoring dignity and hope, and really amplifying the beauty and the resilience of communities that have been really harmed by white supremacy on a global scale. So a lot of the times we're taking something that is really traumatic and has a long history of violence, but we're kind of, it's almost like alchemy. Like we're taking that ugliness and then we're transforming it into something beautiful, something inspiring, and we're ultimately creating compasses that are pointing towards the direction we want to head in as humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does feel very much about empowering. And like I mentioned earlier, and have said in the past, just meeting people where they are and giving them a point of entry, you know, like Mary mentioned, and we all just feel, so there's a lot to dig into. So using this medium the way that y'all have is just so beautiful and powerful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. There's something really interesting about visual art that, you know, if you put an artwork out in public space, it meets the viewer where they are. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, maybe that artwork is up in your community, and maybe 6 months later, you've read new articles, you're at kind of a different space in your thinking, and then you meet that artwork. And again, it's meeting you where you are, and you're able to understand it differently. So yeah, art's so powerful. To all the artists that are tuning in and listening, like, your voice really matters, and you do have the capacity to kind of shift consciousness within your community through your art form.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say it meets people where they are, but also takes them to a different place, which is just so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once you see something, you can never unsee it.
It's true.
So true. Yeah, absolutely. And at that point, you're either like ignoring it or you decide to sort of dig into it. That's a very, very good point. Great points all around. You two brilliant, amazing ladies we've got with us today. Last but not least, Cleo, we ask every one of our amazing Women on the Front Lines guests this question. What advice would you give your 13-year-old self?
Oh, that is such a good question. Not to be corny, but I would really give myself the advice of not taking the easy path, but really following my intuition and following my like wildest, biggest dreams. I know for myself, I was definitely on kind of more of a mainstream path of like being a doctor, being a lawyer. And for some reason, like my heart just kept being like, you need to curate art in public spaces and bring people together and empower your communities. And I remember everyone in my life was like, you're never going to be able to get a job doing that. Like, that's not sustainable. What are you doing? But I just kept following that intuition. And it was hard at times, but it's ultimately led to where I am today. I feel like, especially now with so many people looking at like YouTube stars and bloggers and thinking, you can just kind of get this quick, easy way of making money. I would just say like really follow your passion and follow your authentic voice, because each of us has a really special gift to contribute to the world. And no one else can do that except for you.
Oh, that reminds me of something Mary always says, which is do what you're good at.
And do your best.
Yeah. It's such a good point. And Cleo, like it's such an important reminder, because I talk often about conditioning, especially girls and women are conditioned. I feel like, this is my personal opinion, like whether it's family dynamics or cultural dynamics or teachers or friends or whatever, work environments, that we all sort of get this kind of conditioning that tells us how we should view ourselves or what we should believe that we're capable of. And so I just love what you said, that it's like follow that inner voice, that inner wise woman is what I call her, who's like guiding us and telling us really what is our true north. So awesome. Thanks so much again to our incredible co-host, Mary, and our creative guru special guest, Cleo. So excited for all of you who tuned in today. And fun note, please stay tuned for all of the exciting events coming up around Earth Week and Earth Day. We'll be announcing all of that live stream content very soon, and we hope to see you all there. Thanks so much. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Rania.